Welcome back to the LegalEase Pod. I'm Kimberly Russell, a first-generation lawyer and a former journalist with a passion for making the law accessible to everyone. Today, Armin Salek joins me. He's a first-generation attorney in Austin, Texas, who is running for president-elect of the Texas Young Lawyers Association. Armin currently serves as executive director of the Youth Justice Alliance, an organization seeking to bridge the access to justice gap by bringing diverse voices into the legal profession. He also serves on the TYLA Board of Directors, along with Bar and Affinity Group committees addressing access to justice. Armin, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to jump in. There's so much to cover.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to hopefully give some helpful answers.
So let's start off with who you are and why you're running. You've been a teacher, you've been a legal aid attorney, and now you're running to lead the Texas Young Lawyers Association. What's the through line in all of your work, and what made you decide to run?
So TYLA, Texas Young Lawyers Association, we are the public service arm of the State Bar of Texas. And given my background working on the pathway to law school, working with legal aid organizations, starting a high school legal aid clinic, I think I'm well prepared to make sure that TYLA is focused on that public service aspect.
So you're a first-gen attorney. How did you decide to go to law school?
I originally went to law school, like many, to become a public defender. I was a sociology and government major in college, which allowed me to focus on criminal justice issues. I saw disparities in how people were punished, depending on both the race of the victim, race of the alleged defendant, and based on how wealthy they were. So I thought maybe if I get involved in criminal defense, I can help address some of those disparities. When I was in law school, though, I actually ended up focusing a lot more on immigration law. And that's partly because I'm an immigrant myself. My pathway to becoming a citizen involved the diversity visa lottery. And I went from being a diversity lottery visa winner to green card holder to citizen to immigration law student to attorney. But then I fell in love with education. That's kind of what took me down this path.
So how did you fall in love with education?
So there was this program at the University of Houston Law Center called Street Law. And through this program, law students like me were allowed to learn how to teach law to local high schools. And I was working at the High School for Law and Justice in Houston ISD, teaching family law, criminal law, constitutional law, immigration law, and I absolutely loved it. And it was in May that I walked the stage for my graduation from law school, and my high school students walked the stage for their graduation. And I'll be honest with you, watching my students walk the stage was so much more powerful for me. I absolutely loved that experience, and I wanted to keep it going. So I ended up getting certified as a teacher while waiting for bar exam results and became a certified teacher and licensed attorney in the same week in November of 2016.
So you found through all of this a real passion for teaching and for reaching potential new young lawyers. How can that play a role in the TYLA?
Absolutely. So historically, TYLA, we do support folks that want to be lawyers, but we have waited until law school to invest in those voices. And for me, as somebody who has worked with middle school students, high school students, college students who are desperately dreaming of becoming attorneys, most of them never make it to that law school stage where they have those great grades, where they do qualify for those diversity scholarships. So it's very frustrating for me to see that the legal profession so frequently waits and doesn't invest until they see that you're a law student with great grades, and you're basically at no risk of failing in that funnel to becoming a legal professional. So my real goal is that as a part of my leadership in TYLA, we're going to focus earlier in the pathway to law school. We're going to invest money in helping people take the LSAT course, get paid internships so that they can get experience in the legal profession, so that those same students that I've been working with for a decade now will actually make it to law school, will make it to the stage where they can be a success story.
You said that the Texas Young Lawyers Association is the public service arm. Does it also offer opportunities to support professional development in young attorneys? And what would that look like?
Under my leadership, you would see more CLEs that are focused on public interest projects. You're going to see more CLEs that are focused on closing those gaps in access to justice that we might be seeing, whether it is landlord-tenant issues or family law issues or criminal defense issues. Where can we fill in the gaps so we're training these young lawyers to provide decades of meaningful legal support to help close the access to justice gap? So just thinking about our 4 quarterly meetings where we bring all of our board members from across the state of Texas, we can have a CLE that addresses a specific area of need so that by the time they leave that weekend, they're going home with the skills to support Texas Free Legal Answers, They're ready to support their local volunteer lawyer service. They're ready to help close that gap in access for so many people who cannot afford legal support, don't qualify for civil legal aid, and don't really have an answer right now.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing young lawyers in Texas right now?
We're struggling to feel fulfilled. So many of us joined this profession because we wanted to help others. We wanted to serve others. We wanted to close the access to justice gap. We saw disparities in outcomes in court systems based on race, based on wealth, based on socioeconomic status. And most of our jobs don't allow for us to take care of those goals, take care of those objectives that we came into this profession with. We're trying to pay off those law school loans. We're trying to be productive members of our law firms. So how do we balance that with the dream that came with us into this profession? So I think that's part of it. How do we balance our professional goals with our personal mission? And I think TYLA can be a great source of training to help lawyers on the pathway to becoming the mission-driven leaders that we want to be.
What do you see that young lawyers are getting right now? And what do you see we could be improving on?
I do think we have an incredible drive to do good in the world. I think our generation and the generations that are coming after us sometimes are mislabeled as selfish. I think we are incredibly selfless generations of lawyers who want to do good, who want to do right by low-income and middle-income Americans who are really struggling to access legal support. What we're getting wrong is a lot of the myths around legal support. When I'm going around Texas right now and talking about civil legal aid, folks are shocked that you have to earn less than $20,000 to qualify for civil legal aid. Most people don't know that. We think that for those who can't afford our private services, there's legal aid for that. Reality is no. You have to make less than $20,000 to qualify. And if you do, you only have a 1 in 5 chance of accessing legal services. So what we're getting wrong is thinking that legal aid can handle this on their own. They're doing an amazing job. They're the reason why 1 in 5 people do have legal support. The rest of us need to step up to make sure that the other 80% are served and to make sure that you don't have to make less than $20,000 to qualify for civil legal aid. We should be fighting for that to move up while also expanding access to legal support underneath that line.
How can we be better supporting small firms and solo practitioners who are also providing these types of services?
We can incentivize pro bono practice. We can exchange pro bono practice for free CLEs, which might cost a lot for a solo practitioner or a small firm attorney. We can add to their practice by providing toolkits of resources that can help them navigate a new family law issue, a new civil law issue, a new immigration law issue, a new landlord-tenant issue, so that instead of becoming a burden or a difficulty or stressful to take on these pro bono matters, it becomes a huge boost to their practice. So they can take on some pro bono matters and then add it to their private practice as well. So they're serving low-income Americans, middle-income Americans, and those who can afford their private support as well.
Tell me about some success stories that you've seen through the Youth Justice Alliance. I listened to you give a talk recently, and it was really impactful. It sparked my interest as somebody who's a first-gen lawyer and somebody who all through middle school and high school dreamed of being a lawyer, but I had nobody in my family to help me figure that out. So tell me more about a success story that you have that sticks out to you and what's been driving you to run for this position.
I do want to explain our program a little bit because it's a 4-year program, and the 4 steps in our program, the first summer after high school, we take them through a pre-law institute, which is basically a condensed, intensive version of the skills you need to succeed in law school. And we have practical legal lessons taught by expert practitioners, local attorneys, local judges, and we surround them with mentors that can help them on their pathway to their dreams. So, for example, we have jury selection strategy, deposition strategy, family law, criminal law, property law, evidence, criminal procedure. We do mock trials. We do moot courts. We give them a true taste of what law school is like, and we throw in legal writing as well because employers are really looking for that. The second summer after high school, we pay for them to go watch civil and criminal trials and debrief those cases with judges and justices. The third summer after high school, we pay them to work with legal service nonprofits like Disability Rights Texas, like American Gateways, and organizations like that, so they can understand the impact they can have on their community, understand the why of their law degree. And the fourth summer, we pay for their LSAT course, and we pay for their LSAT exam and help them get into law school. The reason we came up with this 4-step program is because those were the barriers to entry for the students that I was working with before as a high school law teacher. They saw the price tag of that LSAT course, couldn't afford it. They were trying to get those internships with law firms, but those were unpaid and they need to pay rent. They didn't have access to a lot of mentors after they graduated from our high school law program. So they didn't have the support, like you mentioned, or that experiential knowledge, the institutional knowledge to help them get to law school. So we thought this might be a good way to help them succeed on the pathway to law school. I could speak to success at every stage, but I want to mention a recent story where our students worked with attorneys at Baker Botts here in Austin, and they partnered to serve Casa Marianella. And it's an immigrant serving organization. And our students use their language skills to serve asylum clinic clients through Baker Botts. So they partnered with attorneys. And because of those language skills, these clients were able to get the support that they needed. And for those students, it was a reminder that they have the skill set, those language skills that would really elevate their careers in the legal community. But other success stories are the many students in our program right now that are studying for the LSAT, improving those scores, getting ready to get higher scholarships and admissions than they would have dreamed of before. All those students that are working with legal service nonprofits right now across the country, actually. We have placements in DC, in Utah, in Louisiana, in Mississippi, in Texas. So these students are actually really using their legal toolkits to serve their communities. And that's what really excites me. We're not just helping produce first-gen attorneys. We're helping produce first-gen attorneys looking to do good in the world.
What you are talking about is lived experiences. So tell me about how you see that making a difference in our profession.
Our profession right now is the least financially accessible profession in America. So while we have an incredible access to justice gap, while we have low-income Americans and middle-income Americans struggling to access legal support, we have a profession that is incredibly underrepresented in voices from the communities that are impacted by the access to justice gap. So if you are a lawyer right now, you are the least likely to have experienced the justice gap compared to any other profession. And I feel like I see this in how our profession operates. I don't see the level of urgency that we should be having addressing the justice gap. Now, if we invest in communities, low income, middle income, across the board, a cross section of our country, so that we have lived experiences from all experiences of the legal system, then we'll move toward a profession that has urgency, that understands the impact of the justice gap, that may have lost their homes because of the justice gap, that may have faced immigration consequences because of the justice gap, that may have been denied employment law protections because of the justice gap. These students are going to help us become a better equipped legal profession, a profession with the language skills to serve all of our communities, a profession who understands the desperate need to address the justice gap, and a profession that knows that we can't just wait and think that the justice gap is closing, because it's not. We're actually moving in the wrong direction.
It sounds like you are clearly an expert in all of this, but it also sounds like you are somebody who is very well connected with all sizes of law firms, so lawyers with all different types of backgrounds. How do you think that it's important for the larger firms and the mid-sized firms? We talked about solo and small firms, but mid and big law, how do you see them being involved in TYLA if you become president?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think big law firms, there's actually a lot of support for their associates and their partners to do pro bono work in the community. And it's not a one size fits all when it comes to that. Some firms do an amazing job of saying, we will commit to supporting you for as many pro bono hours as you want. Some firms say up to 100 hours can be counted toward the 2,000 that you need to hit per year, and so on. So there is a lot of support from big law firms for pro bono services. Now, they need to make sure that their associates and their partners are actually well prepared to provide that pro bono support. And that's where TYLA can come in. Can we provide the wraparound support to make sure that if we're bringing on big law associate, big law partner, big law first year, that we're giving them the toolkit and the knowledge to actually succeed in helping somebody from their community navigate the legal system? I also want to mention our partnership through the Youth Justice Alliance with Big Law. We have a lot of big law partners. One of our longest serving partners is Jackson Walker. And we have this great new initiative with them where we are actually going to take our college-age students and put them through what we're calling pre-CIs. So we all know about on-campus interviews where law students are put through panels of interviews with lawyers, hoping for that big law job. If that is your first interview and you are a first-gen attorney and you have no idea what to expect, it can be terrifying. And I speak from experience. So what we're doing is we're taking our college-age students and we're doing pre-CIs with Jackson Walker, So when they're part of our program, they're all going to do their big law interview before they even make it to law school. So they get a taste of what it's like to answer a panel of questions from 5 attorneys, 6 attorneys, go to a second round of interviews with another set of attorneys. Understand how to network, understand how to succeed. So when you do get those grades, when you do have that great cover letter, when you do have that great resume, you're not going to go into an interview scared. You'll go in confident and you'll be ready to get that dream job that you've worked so hard to get an interview for.
Speaking from personal experience, I bombed my first on-campus interview, and I'm a fabulous interviewer. I was very embarrassed by that. I think career services was embarrassed for me, but that's such an important exposure to have as a first-gen lawyer. All of this sounds like you are perfectly aligned to bridge opportunities for access to justice with the big firms and medium firms to the work that's already going on within the Texas community.
So first and foremost, closing the justice gap would probably be bigger than what I'm capable of, but TYLA can play a small role in that. Even if it means 100 families get the legal support that they need, that would be a huge win. We're not going to solve the access to justice gap, but we can bring it to the forefront. We can make it a priority as the public service arm of the State Bar of Texas. And I think the first thing I would do is that at every one of our quarterly meetings, we should do a direct legal service clinic. We should be going to local service providers like Salsa in San Antonio, like Houston Volunteer Lawyers. There's partners all across the state that would be willing to host us, train us, and allow us to serve our neighbors who are desperately waiting for legal support. Second is that I would prioritize making sure that we have the voices of people who are struggling with the legal system. Right now, most of our conferences, most of our events, most of our bar associations, if you go to those meetings, everybody there has a law degree or is the partner of somebody with a law degree or is served very well by the legal profession. That is a huge sampling error when it comes to the overall experiences that folks have with the legal system. So can we actually invite the people that are sitting there wondering, how am I going to actually navigate this divorce so I can get out of this abusive relationship when filing this case is so confusing to me and I can't handle this in my first language, let alone my second or third?
Some of what you're talking about sounds like legal literacy.
Mm-hmm.
How can we as lawyers help facilitate better legal literacy, whether it's in access to justice, talking with our family members, volunteering in the community in other capacities? How can we help people understand the law?
I think we can help break down this dichotomy between you're either a lawyer or you don't have any legal knowledge. We need to be investing in elementary school, middle school, high school legal education. We need to be investing in college legal education beyond pre-law programs. We need to give up a little bit of our own power. We really do. There's just too much of a monopoly on legal knowledge in the legal profession, and we've left everybody else behind. Not everybody has access to a lawyer. So we need to make sure that we're helping train everybody else up on how to navigate employment law systems, family law systems, criminal law systems. We need to be in the business of helping people gain legal knowledge, even if it's not to our personal benefit. Let's remind ourselves of why we got into this profession, which for most of us was to help people. And that includes people who aren't paying for our services and our time.
Do you see technology playing a role in TYLA if you become president?
When it comes to advances and changes to the legal profession, one thing that I see too often is that attorneys and our bar association, we compare advances to existing systems where somebody walks into a law firm, gets legal support, is assisted by legal assistants, paralegals, an attorney, a receptionist, and has this experience of great service. That's not reality for most folks. So when I'm in rooms, when I'm in bar associations, if I'm leading TYLA, I'm going to ask people, you're not comparing to somebody walking into the 50th floor of your amazing law firm, compared to somebody that's hit dead ends, who cannot afford legal support. How will this advancing technology help them? In fact, it's amazing for the folks who are struggling to access legal support right now. Maybe that's the answer that they've been waiting for. So if TYLA can be a part of thinking about how to utilize AI to serve others, thinking about how we can put our CLEs, broadcast them more widely, or working to introduce more people to our toolkit of resources that already exist on our website. Go to TYLA, look at resources for educators, look at resources for law students, look at resources for lawyers, and for pro se litigants. We do have an existing online toolkit available. Let's figure out how we can get that to the communities that need it.
Imagine that you're speaking to an attorney who is practicing, has lived experiences, and is frustrated with the profession. What words of encouragement might you have for somebody like that?
I would say use that voice, use that perspective because it's missing. You are truly an anomaly because we have a profession that is overrepresented in folks who have experienced the best of our legal system. And we hear a lot from that perspective, folks who haven't been on the other side where they've been desperately looking for legal support for their landlord-tenant issue, consumer law issue, criminal law issue. So if you have that experience where you've been on the other side looking for an attorney and now you have become that attorney in your family, don't forget about those folks who still don't have an attorney in their family, who still don't have access to that legal knowledge. How can you share out your experience? How can you use your voice to help out all those folks who are still desperately waiting for that person to save their family from the access to justice gap? In terms of working with TY we are going to be supporting our local affiliates as well. So wherever you are across Texas, chances are there's a local affiliate that will support you in your career and give you service opportunities to serve your neighbors, to be trained up, to learn a new area of law, to utilize Texas Bar CLE as well, to get trained up on a new area of practice to support your pro bono efforts. So there are a lot of ways to follow through with probably the same dreams that got you into this profession.
Where can people find out more about you and your campaign and get involved to support you?
Absolutely. So you can go to arminsalek.com, ARMINSALEK.com. You'll get to learn a little bit more about my platform for the Texas Young Lawyers Association president. My platform is heavily focused on public service. You'll be able to see 10 points that describe exactly how TYLA would change if I was the president. And you'll see that I have a heavy focus on the pathway to law school and a heavy focus on uplifting the voices of folks who are struggling to access legal support, and a commitment to doing direct service clinics and supporting direct service clinics, helping people resolve their issues. So I hope people will support my campaign with their vote or by reaching out to their friends who might be lawyers in Texas, licensed in the last 12 years, who can vote and can support a campaign that's focused on public service. If I do get the support and I do win this election, you'll see that TYLA will truly commit to its mission of being the public service arm of the State Bar of Texas.
Do you have an Instagram handle that people can share to their story so that other lawyers can find out about you?
On Instagram, please follow, share, like, comment on Vote Armin Salek. That's my handle. And if you want my personal handle, it's just Armin Salek.
Where do they cast their vote and when is the deadline to vote?
For the race for president of the Texas Young Lawyers Association, you can vote between April 1st and April 30th. If you are a Texas lawyer licensed in the last 12 years, you'll receive an email from the State Bar of Texas. Make sure you log in, make sure you cast your ballot, because there are truly two different platforms, and I hope you will vote for the public service platform. We're going to spend our time and money investing in the pathway to law school for economically disadvantaged students and historically underrepresented communities. And we're also going to spend our time and money doing direct legal services. We really need to make sure that the public service arm of the State Bar of Texas is focused on public service.
Armin, I think this is such an interesting and unique and needed take on access to justice, and starting with lived experiences so much earlier in the pipeline than pro bono in your law firm as an associate. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really enjoyed it. Best of luck to you, and thank you for your service to our profession.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure to subscribe and share. See you next time.